Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's do one final example. And in this example, we'll focus on the market for specialty coffee. And we'll focus on the market for specialty coffee in specifically Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So again, we're thinking about simultaneous shifts in the supply and the demand curves and what that does, or what we might expect that to do to the equilibrium price P star and equilibrium quantity Q star. So we want to think about a few things that might happen at the same time which shift both the supply and demand curves. Okay, so let's say event number one. Suppose that there's a decline in the value of the Colombian peso relative to the dollar, such that the price of Colombian coffee beans in the United States decreases. Okay, so we'll say that there's a decrease in the price of Colombian coffee beans. Okay, and that's one of the main inputs into producing a cup of specialty coffee in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Okay, so again, it's an increase, or a decrease, I should say, decrease in an input price to this final good, which is a cup of specialty coffee in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So I'll just say that's an increase in supply. Okay, increase in supply. So that's going to be a shift of the supply curve and a shift to the right. I'll call that S2. Okay, so that's one event. That's going to shift the supply curve. But we're also going to think about a situation where we have a shift in the demand curve. So let's suppose that the Lancaster City Council decides that it would be a good idea to host and sponsor the world's largest urban beekeeper convention, or urban beekeeping convention. All right, so the world's largest urban beekeeping convention is going to be hosted here in Lancaster, and what is that going to do? Well, that's going to lead to an increase in the number of hipsters that are circulating around Lancaster. Because hipsters love urban beekeeping. And the thing is that hipsters also love specialty coffee, right? There's not too many things that hipsters love, but urban beekeeping and specialty coffee are definitely two of those things. So what does this mean, or what is the point of this? An increase in the number of hipsters means that there's an increase in the number of buyers in the market for specialty coffee in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So an increase in the number of hipsters is just increase in the number of buyers for specialty coffee. Okay, and that's a shift of the demand curve to the right. Okay, so shifts to the right. We'll call that new demand curve D2. Okay, so what do we know? Well, we have this new point of intersection, and the goal here is to see whether this is higher than the original equilibrium price P star 1, or lower than the equilibrium price P star 1. And if the quantity is lower or higher than the equilibrium quantity Q star 1. So we want to see where the new equilibrium price and quantity are relative to the original equilibrium price and quantity before we had these two events happen. So what do we know? We know that there's an increase in supply, right? Supply curve shifts to the right. So we know the equilibrium price and quantity or the new point of intersection has to be somewhere to the right of the original supply curve. But we also know that the demand curve shifted to the right. So the new point of intersection also has to be somewhere to the right of the original demand curve. And we don't exactly know where this point of intersection is going to be, but it could be anywhere, in this triangle, because it just depends on where or how much we shift the supply and demand curves. So we'll say that this new point of intersection could be anywhere in this region here. So we don't know. But what we do know is that any new equilibrium quantity that corresponds to a point in this region has to be greater than the original equilibrium quantity. So we know that Q star increases, right? The question is, what happens to P star? And we just don't know, because it depends. Without new equations for the supply and demand curves, we don't know where this point is, right? We don't know exactly whether it's above or below this original price. So we'll just say that P star is unknown, or the effect of these events on P star is unknown.